How does Google go about finding, aggregating, and suggesting some of local AI overview answers it gives to the public? Because it seems like now that's the first and most prominent thing Google is showing when you do a search.
It's important not to think of Google as monolithic. There are different Google algorithms at play. There are still the traditional search results, which are ordered as they always have been. There's the AI overviews and AI search results, which have a different set of information in them. And then there's local. Now, it's only been in the last, 30 days or so that we're starting to see local and AI really merge. A lot of the same factors that have always mattered in local SEO. And I grew up in local SEO. So I know it. I got a bunch of colleagues who focus very heavily on law firm SEO. What we're seeing is that the AI results are not just the query being run against the database that they built as that large language model.
Welcome to Harry Handles It, a podcast where we dive into the world of personal growth, success strategies, and everything in between. I'm your host, Harry Nalbandyan, and today we're going to chat with an incredible guest who has some amazing insights to share. Remember, no matter what life throws your way, I'm here to help you handle it. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Harry Handles It podcast. Today we've got the great Will Scott here, who is the CEO and co-founder of a search optimization company called SearchInfluence. Will, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Harry. Great to be here.
Of course. Give our viewers a little bit of background about you, your career, and what brought you to SearchInfluence.
So shockingly enough, I've been doing this kind of stuff for around 30 years. Put my first website online in the mid-90s. I was actually, at the time, a student at the Tulane School of Architecture, and I walked into the dean's office and I said, "Hey, man, we need a website." And he was like, "Sure, go figure out how to do that." And so from that point until now, that's pretty much been my life. I finished the degree in architecture. I joke that they made me promise that I would never use it, but throughout the remaining few years in school, I just knew that I was going to be spending the rest of my life working on the internet. So, fast forward a dozen or so years, and I've been through, working in academia, working in a web startup, and my wife and I had the opportunity to choose our next adventure. And so we decided we wanted to do the stuff that we'd been doing, particularly around SEO and digital marketing, but with a focus on local businesses. It was right after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and we had to help my in-laws actually restart their chiropractic practice. So they were our first customer. They had come out of a town just outside of New Orleans that most people haven't heard of called Chalmette. And Chalmette didn't just get wet, it got wet and oily. So we basically rebuilt their whole business, first in the garage of our house, and then on Maple Street, uptown New Orleans. And that was the beginning of SearchInfluence.
Awesome. That's a great story. How has the SEO landscape changed from that time to now with all of our AI tools that exist?
It's a big difference. It's a big difference, and it's also not so big a difference if you've been doing SEO right for the last dozen or so years. I like to remind people that the first time that Google told us that they were thinking about AI was they published a blog post on what they called the knowledge graph. And it was when and this is a quote from them, it was when they moved from strings to things, right? From keywords, and I say moved, but really it was kind of started to move. It was going from keywords that we've all, come to know and love, think like, dog bite lawyer, Reseda, California, right? To things which are entities that are known. A known entity would be an attorney. A known entity would be Reseda, California. So when you think about the difference between the kinds of keywords that we've been stuffing into content all of these years and tying ourselves to the knowledge graph, that's the biggest difference. And again, should have been working our way there since 2012, but I think everybody's been smacked in the head with it since, ChatGPT launched in the end of 2022.
Yeah, big time. Now, with AI, short reels, different ways people are consuming information and getting answers to questions through TikTok, through YouTube. Is blogging dead, or is AI making it a more powerful tool for SEOs, specifically for attorneys?
Yeah, I think so. So what is it that Warren Buffett says is that money's an amplifier, right? So I think AI is an amplifier too, right? If you were doing kind of junkie blogging before, and you're hoping that this will help you accelerate your junkie blogging, then it's not really going to add much value. If instead you think of how can I be using the blogs that I'm creating to do a better job of connecting me to the things I do and the places I do them, those are great signals. Now, the best thing you can be doing is, instead of necessarily publishing on your site, go publish on other people's sites with those same ideas, right? So if you can be connecting yourself in a whole bunch of different places to the knowledge graph, and blogging is a great way to do that. You mentioned TikTok and short video and that kind of stuff. What I find really interesting is, just in the last couple of weeks, Google got permission to crawl Instagram. And now we're seeing Instagram posts showing up in the Google results and in the AI overviews. So all of the core ideas that we would talk about in doing semantic SEO, right, or that which is applicable to AI, work in all those other channels too. And for a certain demographic, they're not searching on Google. They're discovering serendipitously through social channels, through short form video, all that kind of stuff. So short answer is, nothing's dead. You just got to be doing it a little bit more thoughtfully.
And ever since I started practice, SEO has been this mysterious realm that we all try to be on top of, so that we end up in front of consumers when they do these well-intentioned searches, or even when they're looking for information, because ultimately the goal of SEO is to provide quality information to the public, right?
Yeah, you would think, yes.
And so how do you avoid getting penalized by Google for using AI to provide quality content, or sometimes not?
It's so there, I have like 15 ways I think about this particular question, right? The first is that Google uses AI. So how are they going to penalize you for using AI? The key is, are you creating good content? Are you creating content that users want to engage with, that they find value in? Because if you go back to the Department of Justice suing Google, and all of the stuff that came out in those trials, what we learned is that Google can't read. What Google does is it gauges engagement. So if a user clicks through and they stay on that page, then the inference is that they've gotten value from it. So if you're creating good content that adds value to users, you're not going to get penalized for it. And I would argue that if you write like you're writing for AI, users are going to get more value. The other thing, and this is where, like, when you talk about AI tools, one of the things I find just amazing is how quickly you can create new kind of derivative content with AI tools. So let's say you've got a blog post that's all about something really important to your users, right? How to pick the best personal injury lawyer in XYZ. Well, the next thing you can do is you can take that blog post and you can definitely use high quality production houses to turn that into a video for you, but you can use tools like wave.video, and by copying and pasting the URL into wave.video, in 90 seconds you can go from literally having pasted that URL to a video live on YouTube. And so if you think about, now I've got a video live on YouTube, Google loves YouTube, right? And if I think about the description that I give that video and writing it in a way that's appropriate for search, appropriate for AI, I've now got 2 bites of that same apple. But wait, there's more, right? As the Ginsu knife commercial used to say, now I can turn it into an Instagram reel. Now I can turn it into a TikTok video. Now I can turn it into a tweet, right? Now I can go search on Reddit and see if anybody's asking that question, and I can go answer it for them. So the idea for me is, number one, ubiquity, right? How can you be everywhere? But number two, how can you use the tools to first create content that users love, and then recreate that content in all of the channels?
So I've heard of a lot of AI tools, and I think we use some in-house to repurpose some content. It suggests the repurposing of content. It creates the content from these types of long-form videos. Mm-hmm. Are there specific tools you'd recommend for law firm owners to be using to leverage, say, a long-form example like this to turn it into a ubiquitous piece of material that goes everywhere?
There's a killer tool that we've been using lately that's specifically about. It started off as a video editor where you could edit the video from its transcript. But what I've been using it a lot for is extracting the transcript and then even making shorts. And that tool is called Descript, Descript, Descript.com. And you can even point it at somebody else's video on YouTube. I'm not saying you should do this. You can point it at somebody else's video on YouTube and grab the transcript and then do whatever you want with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so what advantages would grabbing a transcript from a different video provide from an SEO standpoint?
Well, let's say and thinking of it from a competitive response perspective, if you find that you're getting outranked by video, for instance, what do you need to be doing? You probably need to be creating video, because Google has decided that the intent of users who are searching for that thing is satisfied by video. And so maybe you can grab that transcript and figure out why it's ranking so well. See what they're talking about. Another great reason to do that is that you can start to build a body of knowledge. So I taught for SMX, which is one of the big conferences in the search marketing industry, an AI SEO masterclass. They want to call it GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. Can't get with that. It's, first off, it's too big a mouthful, and second, it's got a disambiguation problem, right? What is GEO? Geo marketing, geo targeting, right? Geo tracker from Chevy, I don't know, right? So for that reason, I can't get with geo. But what I did is it was 6 hours of me talking and answering questions, and I took all of that, pulled the transcripts, I created a custom GPT in Chat GPT, and now I can ask it to answer as me.
Nice.
And it's based on the knowledge both that I shared and also the Q&A that we had with the people who were attending that, 100 and something attendees, and all of the great questions that they brought. So to me, the first thing is get the data, right? Get the information, and then figure out how you're going to use it.
That's interesting. And I love these custom GPT tools that exist. It makes being in one place, more than one place, very much easier. Now it seems like.
Totally. The other tool that I'm currently having a pretty deep and torrid love affair with is called make.com. And make.com is there are a group of tools like this. They call them they're no code coding tools. And with make.com, you can string together elements in a very visual way. So you can connect a Google spreadsheet to ChatGPT to WordPress, right? And so I have a project where I have an RSS feed of all of our competitors' blogs in a given industry, and I can tell you which one it is, but I go out and I do a scan weekly of all of the blogs in that RSS feed, and I use ChatGPT to write a summary of each of them, and then I put them all together, and then I have ChatGPT give me the highs and the lows from all of them, and then I publish it as a weekly roundup of industry marketing blogs. And I kid you not, I have seen my almost completely automated. I got a guy who does the final polishing touches and puts them online for me. But I've seen those actually show up in Google's AI overviews for searches in that category.
I mean, that's actually very clever. Taking in the entire feed of what everyone's posting, taking the highlights and the big hitters from those. Very clever.
Yeah. Well, and it's look, you could do this in any industry. I bet you there's somebody out there doing this for legal blogs as well, right? So here's an idea for you, Harry, on your firm's blog. Go build an RSS feed of the top 10, the top 10 personal injury blogs where you feel like they're actually creating good content and not just spewing dreck, or not, and then process them on a weekly basis. And now on Friday mornings, you publish the weekly roundup of the best in personal injury blogs, right? The next step that I've taken with this, and this is a human step still today, but it is really effective, is I then publish it to LinkedIn and tag the people in it. And and so, some of them reshare it, some of them link to it. It's a pretty subversive tactic all around.
Yeah. I like that your strategy is kind of multifaceted around SEO. And it's not just your recommendation isn't just one branch and use this strategy.
There's a, we have a, you know, I probably spend too much time reading what other SEOs write, right? And one group that I follow is now talking about like, uh, multi-channel SEO. And I'm like, wait, you know what multi-channel is? Multi-channel SEO is SEO. If you've been doing it right, that's what you've been doing, right? So we've been talking about everybody, it's true in every industry that things come in waves, right? And everybody's all excited about Reddit. We started cultivating Reddit accounts 10 years ago, right? Because we knew that it was a place where people actually hung out and got information. Same thing with social, is that people are people are searching on social. B, Google loves social, right? So if you want to show up in Google results and you can have social posts that have a lot of authority, you're going to get there. Another one that everybody's just kind of turned on to recently is LinkedIn. If you guys aren't publishing on LinkedIn, you really need to be. And not posting necessarily, but creating LinkedIn articles. So if you take your best content from your blog and you republish it as a LinkedIn article, and then you link to it a couple of times, LinkedIn is a hella authoritative site, right? Just based on traditional SEO metrics, like, site authority, let's say that you've been optimizing your site, your local attorney firm site for the last decade. You might have a domain authority of 52 or something, right? LinkedIn has a domain authority of 99. So just saying. It's another great use case for AI.
Because in the SEO game, we're all looking for backlinks. We're all looking for, exposure to the high domain authority websites, and LinkedIn seems like low hanging fruit that we can pick.
It's like free money. You want to go get it all day long. That's reality. Yeah,
that's great. Now, how does Google go about finding, aggregating, and suggesting some of the local AI overview answers it gives to the public? Because it seems like now that's the first and most prominent thing Google is showing when you do a search.
There's it's important not to think of Google as monolithic, right? There are different Google algorithms at play. There are still the traditional search results, which are ordered as they always have been. There's the AI overviews and AI search results, which have a different set of information in them. And then there's local. And so now it's only been in the last, 30 days or so that we're starting to see local and AI really merge. But a lot of the same factors that have always mattered in local SEO, and I grew up in local SEO. So I know it. I got a bunch of colleagues who focus very heavily on law firm SEO. And what we're seeing is that the AI results are not, and this is something that people don't get. I'm going to try to express it in as sort of lay person's understanding as possible. The AI results are not just the query being run against the database that they built as that large language model. They're actually using something that they call, and I apologize, there's no shorter version for this, retrieval augmented generation. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that before they build that AI overview, and this is true whether it's local or the traditional search, before they build that AI overview, they're going and they're looking to ground that information in something. If you're talking about Perplexity or OpenAI search, right, ChatGPT search, that grounding is usually real time. In other words, they're going out to the open web, they're getting results, and they're bringing them back and they're comparing them to the large language model. For Google, that database that they're comparing against is the Google index. So this is why traditional SEO still really matters, is who's going to come out top of that list. It's going to be the ones who already rank top organically and in maps, right? So all of those traditional ranking factors, you got to have frequency, recency, and positivity of reviews. You got to have name, address, phone number alignment, right? You got to go out and get citations, because one of the things that the AI machines are looking at is how frequently you're cited. So all of those things that we've been talking about in local SEO for the last 20 years are still just as relevant.
Yeah. So it's the foundations. You got to get the foundation right. You keep doing the fundamentals, and you'll show up in the AI overview, because that's what it's searching for. That's what it's pulling from. It's pulling from the firms that are doing the fundamentals correctly and have been for a long time, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a big driver. The one thing I think that's more of a mind shift than a real tactical shift is to think in what they refer to as semantic triples. So the so to give you an example of what that is, right? You're helping the AI to understand how multiple things that might look alike are really different. So I say apple, you could think tasty treat, or you could think, overpriced electronic device, right? But without some context, how does it know, right? So if I say an apple is a healthy snack, you know which Apple I'm talking about. If I say Steve Jobs co-founded Apple, you know which Apple I'm talking about. And so those are by definition semantic triples, right? And so if we were to say Harry practices personal injury law in Los Angeles, right? Personal injury law is a known entity. Harry is a known entity, once we give you a little more context, right? And Los Angeles is a known entity. And so you're no longer, this goes back to the strings versus things idea, right? It's no longer about the keywords, it's about the concepts, right? And stringing the concepts together. Same thing with like, I don't know, Walmart slip and fall, Palmdale, right? You got some entities there that have previously been a keyword, but you've got to think about how you tie them to their actual entity, right? I don't know if there's an entry in Wikipedia for slip and fall, but there might be. So you got to think, you get what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not just like putting the words on a page, it's putting them together in a way that binds you to the thing you do and the place you do it.
And so how does your company help law firms like us do that?
What we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, all that stuff. We have, as a firm, been pretty technical all along, because I grew up actually, building websites before there were a whole bunch of easy tools to do it. So we tend to focus on, when we think about content, we think, how do we make sure that we're focused and attacking these entities in the way that we're talking about? When we think about existing content, same thing. And I bet you, how many videos do you think your firm has up on YouTube?
Less than 100.
How many do you think are perfectly optimized for AI SEO?
Probably none.
Right. So that's the kind of thing, if we were to engage with a firm like yours or any firm, the things that we would look at are like, what are the existing assets? Where's the value? And are they speaking the language in the way that makes the most sense to the AI? So oftentimes we're not going to recommend, hey, you need to build 100 new pages on this. We're going to say, let's look at these 100 pages that you have and prioritize how we can go from old school SEO wall o text with keywords stuffed into semantic chunks that appropriately tag you to your place in the knowledge graph, and then come behind that with things like schema text to make sure that we're really explicitly defining the connections. But in short, when we engage, we start, it doesn't look a lot different than SEO. The difference is that we're looking a lot more at the technical side of it than the pure words on the page.
Now, how does a law firm or a lawyer differentiate themselves when it could be argued that everyone's saying the same thing?
My first response to that is like, how did you do it before, right? That's number one. Is it's no different today than it was a decade ago in terms of differentiation. the key for me is focus. So you've heard the phrase, the riches are in the niches, right? So
Right.
so the more you can define who you are and who you want to do it for, and then bang that drum and do it in all of the places, despite how easy I'm telling you it is to do all of these things, who's doing it? Not that many. So I think there's a real opportunity to get out in front of it. Every time you close a new case, do a press release, right? And it's what was the case about? Where did it happen? You could do things like naming the court where you argued it, right? Things that consider what are in the ontology of the world, right? Where do the things that you do connect, and do everything you can to make those connections. I'll give you one silly example. Look at my name on the screen.
Yes.
Right? Will Scott, AI SEO expert. I'm doing everything I can everywhere I go to make sure that when you see Will Scott, and it's talking about me, not one of the other million Will Scotts, that it has associated with it the phrase AI SEO expert.
That's clever.
That, Harry, I think is the answer to that question, is how do you differentiate yourself? You pick the thing that you want to be known for, that you want to be. I saw a talk many years ago. The title of the talk was Going from A to the. And so the question that you got to ask is, how do I go from being an attorney who does these things to the attorney that people think of for these things? And I think it's a lot easier when you can do some of the stuff we're talking about in using AI to get your word out there.
A lot to think about, and a lot of different strategy to think about now, for sure, especially considering the new SEO environment with all of this. So thank you so much for the conversation, Will. This was very enlightening, and I hope this is not going to be the only time we talk on the podcast. I feel like you have a lot to offer to our users, to our listeners, and law firm owners.
Harry, it's my pleasure. This is, I've been doing this for, like I said, 30 years, and I'm more excited about it now than I have been in the last decade, just because of all of the opportunities that AI is opening up for all of us.
I really feel like that shows.
Yeah,
Can you tell our listeners how they can find you and get in touch with you?
So go Google Will Scott AI SEO expert first, but I'm pretty easy to find. If you Google Will Scott SEO or Will Scott New Orleans, or better still, our company SearchInfluence, we're pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Will. Pleasure.
My pleasure, Harry.
Thanks for joining us today on Harry Handles It. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and found some valuable takeaways. If you're facing challenges in your own life or business, remember that you're not alone. Together, we can handle anything that comes our way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you liked what you heard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and handling life with confidence.